When you start to learn about the avoidant attachment style, it brings up a lot of questions. Like, is it worth dating somebody with avoidant attachment, or do they make it too hard to build a relationship together? Will they leave you when they get bored or overwhelmed? And can you date an avoidant if you have an anxious attachment style? The truth is that while it can be a challenge, there are actually benefits to dating somebody with avoidant attachment. It's far from a death sentence for your relationship, but it will require a little work and research if you really want to have the best outcome. And trust me when I say that in most cases, you can create a happy, fulfilling relationship with an avoidant that lasts a lifetime. So let me tell you what dating an avoidant is really like, what to expect, and how you should proceed. But first, let's just quickly lay out the basics. The truth is that a lot is said about avoidant attachment that's just plain wrong. So let's get this straight. Avoidant attachment is one of the 4 attachment styles. And these 4 attachment styles describe how a person forms emotional attachments with the people close to them. That's all. They don't say anything about their value as a person or as a partner. Now, avoidant attachment in particular describes people who struggle with closeness in relationships because of their tendency to avoid intimacy and conflict. They use avoidance as a strategy to manage their feelings and really keep themselves safe. And this leads to behavior like the silent treatment, stonewalling, and pulling away. Avoidants tend to place a high value on independence and freedom and a low value on emotions. Now, avoidance typically forms in childhood where the child finds that their emotional needs are neglected or dismissed. And they quickly come to believe that emotions are standing in the way of their own safety and security. And from here, they develop the strategy of repressing and avoiding their emotions, as well as any situations that trigger their emotions. And this strategy tends to continue into adulthood. So dating an avoidant presents its fair share of challenges and opportunities. And you'll have to decide for yourself if dating somebody with an avoidant attachment style is really worth the trade-off. It's also important to consider that avoidants are not all the same. They vary in the degree of avoidance and how they use this strategy. So there are avoidants who have come to terms with their attachment style and are actively taking steps to keep it from impacting their relationships. And there are also avoidants who refuse to admit that their behavior can be hurtful and will fight against you at every turn. And there are also avoidants who have never heard anything about attachment styles and have no idea what's happening. You also need to realize that this isn't some temporary issue that you can cure by, talking it over or treating them in exactly the right way. This attachment style has been ingrained in them since they were a small child, so it's really generally become a huge part of who they are. Now, you will be able to solve problems that come up, but you won't be able to completely eliminate the issues that their attachment style will cause. Now, with that in mind, let's jump into the first thing you really need to know about dating an avoidant. And that is number 1, it can limit the drama. So if you're used to those crazy, passionate relationships that are, equal parts sex and fighting, then you know that they get old fast. The thing about dating an avoidant is that because they shy away from conflict, you may find that you can avoid a lot of the drama that can often make relationships miserable. Of course, avoiding conflict is its own problem, which we'll cover in depth later in this video, but in many situations, it can be preferable to constant bickering. So whether you're typically attracted to, fiery individuals, or if you're somebody who's always starting fights, dating an avoidant can completely flip this dynamic and allow you to actually enjoy more peace and comfort than you might be used to. And number 2, you may not see problems until it's too late. So on the other hand, since avoidants tend to keep things to themselves, this often means that problems will stay hidden for far too long. So your partner will keep their issues inside and let them stew, and it can cause resentment. And this is why, regularly checking in on the relationship is often a necessary part of dating an avoidant. Because if you simply leave them be, these problems can stay hidden forever and they can come to poison the relationship between the two of you. And number 3, problems may be solved more quickly. Now, avoidants tend to have a muted emotional response, at least outwardly. And just as this can help to minimize drama like we just talked about, it can also be helpful when it comes to solving issues that do come to light. And this is because they're more pragmatic and less emotional, so problems are less likely to get blown out of proportion or talked to death. Avoidants tend to be quick to accept your apology, to apologize themselves, and to take action to solve a problem in order to put an end to the conversation. They may also be, more likely to defer to your way of thinking if they're somebody who's able to understand and accept their own shortcomings. Basically, once they figure out that you're the one who is better at diagnosing and solving problems in the relationship, they may be more likely to listen to you and to actually take your advice. Now, this won't always be the case though, because some avoidants can be extremely stubborn and really stuck in their ways. And that brings us to number 4, which is it teaches you the value of self-reliance. If you feel like you care too much about what other people think and feel, then avoidance can provide a great role model. Because of their focus on emotional independence, they're very used to acting on their own to get by. And this attitude can rub off on you and really make you more confident and secure than you were before. So, try going to your avoidant partner with your personal problems and ask them how they'd handle the situation. Obviously, they won't get it right every time, but it can still be very powerful to realize that you can put yourself first and act without having to agonize over the impact that your behavior is going to have on others. And ideally, you rub off on your partner as well, giving them a bit more empathy and emotional intelligence. And number 5 is it can make you feel lonely. So often when I talk to people in relationships with avoidance, they often tell me the same thing. Their partner makes them feel lonely. And this is because many avoidants need a lot more time alone than the average person. And so you might find that your partner isn't around as often as you'd like. And then there are the times where, your partner is around physically, but mentally they might seem like they're on another planet. They won't participate in the conversation, they'll be slow to answer when you say something to them, and they'll fail to really engage with you. And in some ways, this can feel worse than actually being alone. And number 6 is avoidants are more emotionally stable. So for the same reasons that they struggle with expressing their emotions, avoidant partners are often good at remaining composed under stress. Not only can this help you feel more grounded and safe in general, it can be vital when it comes to emergencies and other times of increased stress. So say, you lose your job or your pet dies. Now, an avoidant partner can sort of be your rock, providing a soothing presence that can help you stay calm and actually get through it. And number 7, dating an avoidant can make you feel insecure. Now, I've already said that dating an avoidant can make you feel more secure, so then how can it also make you feel insecure? Well, the answer comes down to how different avoidants act differently and, crucially, how you interpret their behavior. Some may prefer the strong, silent type who really only say what they mean and only when it's important. For them, silence is golden and compliments feel more real when they're rare. But for others, a lack of communication can feel like a lack of emotional connection, which can feel like a lack of love. So if your partner being occasionally distant is going to bother you, then dating an avoidant might be a mistake because this can be a pretty consistent problem. Not knowing how they feel can send you into a tailspin and really make you question everything. It can feel like you're the only one who cares about building the relationship and actually strengthening the connection between the two of you. At times, it can feel like they don't love you or they don't care about you. And even if you know that's not the case, it can still be hard to shake that feeling when your partner is avoidant. And this is extra hard for people with an anxious attachment style and people who suffer from self-esteem issues. And other times, your avoidant partner may react very strongly in a way you weren't expecting. They may get angry or upset out of nowhere. They may storm off or go cold or pull away. And this is because avoidants don't tend to communicate their boundaries very well, and it's easy to cross a boundary when it's invisible. And next up, number 8, avoidants are low maintenance. So there is a tendency in avoidants to kind of solve their own problems and maintain their independence. And while that can obviously present problems, as we've already talked about, it can also be a huge relief. If you're used to high maintenance partners who demand a lot of love and attention, people who expect you to swoop in and solve all their problems, then an avoidant is going to be a major breath of fresh air. But at the same time, this quiet competence allows avoidants to be able to help you with your own problems. And because avoidants struggle to show you that they care emotionally, they'll often try to show you, with their actions by just being helpful and giving. And they really can take care of themselves and you as well. So in this way, dating an avoidant is actually going to help you figure out your own love language. If you end up feeling unfulfilled and unloved, it's often a sign that you prefer words of affirmation. And if you find that you feel happier than ever, then perhaps quality time and acts of service are more your style. And number 9, this is an important one, your emotional needs may go unmet. So just as avoidants downplay their own emotions, they're also going to downplay yours. So maybe your partner fails to listen to you when you talk, or they try to fix your problems rather than just listening. These are normal problems that many couples face. But where other people could talk about this and come to a resolution, avoidants may fail to acknowledge that the problem even exists. They may totally, dismiss your complaints rather than apologizing or modifying their own behavior. If this kind of thing happens enough, you may feel like your partner doesn't place value in your feelings, and you may start to feel neglected. And finally, number 10, avoidants are loyal. Now, avoidants, they tend to be slow to trust and connect with another person because they're discerning. They want to know that it's the right person and the right relationship, because committing is really difficult for them. And that means, once they make the leap, they can be incredibly loyal and dependable. So avoidants really don't take relationships lightly. So if they do stick around, it's because they're truly invested in you and they truly care about you. They're selective and really value their commitment once they actually make it. So with an avoidant partner, you won't really have to worry about them talking bad about you behind your back or taking someone else's side. Even if they, struggle to connect emotionally, they'll be there for you when you really need it. So as we've covered, avoidance can present, both challenges and benefits when it comes to romantic relationships. And if you want to minimize the bad stuff while maximizing the positive, you do need to handle the relationship a little bit differently than you may be used to. So firstly, you need to give them lots of space. Avoidants feel stifled by too much closeness, and they thrive when they're actually given the space that they feel they need. So you may feel like you'll lose their focus by giving them this kind of space, but it's actually the opposite. Time alone allows them to appreciate you and love you more. See, what avoidants really hate is pressure. They hate to feel like they're constantly, one step behind your needs, like they have to push themselves to keep up and give you what you want. And this leaves them feeling, exhausted and like they're not enough for you. But when you give them space, it allows them to come to you and to connect with you on their terms. And this is actually going to bring you closer than actively trying to win their attention. Now, this will mean that, early on at least, you are going to have to, spend a little bit more time on your own than you might be used to in a relationship. So you're going to have to make your own mental health a real priority. Now, here's a common pattern. You start dating an avoidant, you recognize that they need space, and you give it to them. But then you can't stop wondering what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And since now you have more time to obsess, you basically spin out of control, lost in your own thoughts. I've seen it again and again, unfortunately. So you need to learn to sort out, when the relationship is actually in trouble and when things are okay. And this is going to help you calm your nerves, but it'll also help you figure out if this relationship is actually right for you. Because I think people often get caught up in trying to force the relationship they want. They love this other person, and they think that if they can just get a little more love and attention from them, it'll all be fixed. But then they end up living for the potential relationship rather than the real one. And that conflict between their expectations and reality can become really painful and confusing. And that's why I suggest you find sources of validation outside the relationship. And this is actually something that I suggest for all relationships, not just ones with an avoidant partner, but here it's especially important. Many people put too much pressure on their relationship because they let it become their entire world. So you need to find ways to feel confident and fulfilled that have nothing to do with your partner. Maybe you need to establish community and, other sources of social interaction. You'd honestly be surprised at how many issues in the relationship can be solved with just this one simple fix. But what about your partner in all this? Surely this isn't all on you to manage. After all, they're the ones with the attachment issues. Well, on that front, I suggest you be very clear with your partner about your own expectations and your needs. Now, this can be a scary conversation, especially since your partner is probably not the best communicator in the world, but it is one worth having frequently. Because avoidants lack some of the social skills that many of us take for granted, and they also, aren't as aware of their own emotional needs, so they often don't know when they're neglecting or when they're mistreating other people. So if you actually make it crystal clear what you need from them in order to feel fulfilled and feel happy, they'll be better able to actually meet your needs. And this is going to avoid confusion and hurt feelings because your partner is going to know what's actually expected of them. Now that, of course, isn't going to solve every problem that may come up, but it is going to allow you to, a base from which to grow together and to create a more harmonious relationship. All right, that just about does it for this one. If you are considering dating an avoidant, you've dated an avoidant in the past, maybe you're dating one right now, then I hope that I've helped you to better understand how avoidance impacts you, your partner, and your relationship together. Thanks for liking, watching, subscribing, and otherwise engaging with my videos. I love reading your comments, and I'm curious to know what people are going to say about this one. Appreciate you guys very much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.